banks were expected to show signs of stress in this profit reporting period, with fewer home loans sold and a ratcheting up in bad and doubtful debts. But little of that has been seen so far. The Commonwealth Bank, well, its profit cracked $10 billion for the year. It boosted its dividends and also had a $1 billion share buyback. Today, the NAB said its third quarter profit is $1.9 billion. That's up 5.8%. It too announced a share buyback of $1.5 billion. So in other words, the banks are telling us they think their own shares are a good way of deploying their spare capital. And also today, Bendigo and Adelaide Bank said cash earnings rose 15.3% to a record $576 million. So let's bring in Nathan Zaia, banking analyst with Morningstar. Nathan, always good to chat to you. The banks, they seem to be in much better health than what maybe many imagined them to be.
Yeah, I mean, we've been expecting margins to soften and not collapse and loan losses to start rising but not explode. I think, the state that their balance sheets were in, advance payments that customers had, equity buffers, it seems to have kind of been ignored, and households are showing an ability to rein in discretionary spend where need be. And I think there's still more stress that's going to flow through as the impact of the rates hit households. But yeah, the shape that the banks are in is pretty good at the moment.
So just tell me about, say, the Commonwealth and then NAB today coming out and buying back their own shares, $1.5 billion worth in the case of NAB. That says, A, they got spare capital, B, that they think their own shares are a pretty good way of deploying that. What else does it tell us about the banks?
Yeah, I think the other thing is they wanted to be conservative around how much surplus capital they keep during this economic uncertainty. And they're probably looking at their loan books and thinking, well, they're performing pretty well. And, we don't think we need to hold any more capital than we already hold for potential loan losses, coming down the track. And the banks are all very well provisioned as well. I think that's another thing that often gets overlooked. We do expect stress to come through, but banks have been provisioning for that. So, yeah, I think those dynamics all together, I think there was some, you could understand if they held off for another 6 months or so. But yeah, they're obviously very comfortable with the position they're in.
Okay, then go to Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, because it's only a week or so ago that the ACCC identified it as the natural buyer of the Suncorp Bank. Now, it's sort of indicated, well, it's not our time to do this. The ANZ, of course, is desperate to buy it. It's all headed to the Australian Competition Tribunal. Is Bendigo and Adelaide Bank the natural buyer of Suncorp?
Look, I don't know how well that deal would go. Bendigo have been pushing the case for, the rationale behind them buying it, adding scale, and scale is important in banking. We saw it in Bendigo's result, an increase in costs around scams. It added 1.7% to their expenses. So being able to leverage that sort of spend and the spend on your systems, that's all great. But depending on what Bendigo offer for Suncorp Bank, and we don't think it would be as generous as what ANZ offered, and then you take in consideration all the integration costs. Even if you get all the synergies, you're not guaranteed that this deal would be accretive to returns and accretive for shareholders. And that's not to mention, huge risk that you take with the integration itself. You might get cost overruns, you might not get the savings you were looking for. So look, even if Bendigo can pull it off, we do have our doubts, and it would come with a lot of risk.
Tell you, it's going to be interesting, because you'd also have to imagine that there's a lot of incentive to get before the Competition Tribunal and try and get that ANZ deal across the line as well. Nathan Zaia from Morningstar, always good to chat to you here on the program.
Thanks, Russ.